Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Bonus Point Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, TJ Olsen. Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing sponsors. First off, Whalebird Kombucha. If you're looking for a great tasting beverage that is actually good for you, go try them out at your local Whole Foods, Air One, and other health food stores. Secondly, the Rugby Nation. The Rugby Nation are the leaders in strength and conditioning specifically for rugby players. They will be releasing their 30-day gym Shred Fat Like the Pros program this month with the official challenge beginning on November 1st. Tune into today's episode to hear a special code for a discount on the challenge. Lastly, OsteoStrong LA. So OsteoStrong is a unique state-of-the-art wellness center located in Mar Vista that has outstanding results for strengthening bones, joints, and muscles. In just 10 minutes per week, you can increase strength, bone density, improve posture, balance, and most importantly for rugby players, your athletic performance. So if you're interested, go check out osteostrongla.com to book your free consultation today. So today, Bonus Point Podcast, we're officially in the dirty 30s. Welcome to episode number 30. We've got our regular analyst, Tavita Halafia, aka Knovell Capote. Alongside Hulla, we've got our head coach of Cal Poly, Mr. James Tesoriero. And as usual, I'm your host, TJ Olsen. But of course, for a special episode, we had to bring in a special guest. So joining us today, this episode, luckily to be in the same room as Hulla in Australia and Brisbane, please welcome to the Woods. Woods Howe, what's going on, bro? How we doing?
Hi, bro. Hey, TJ. Hey, James. And thanks, Hala, for having me today.
Booyah. How we doing, James? How we doing, Hala? What's going on?
Yeah, good, bros. I'm doing real good, man. You know, just chilling, Dylan, trying to make $1 million. Yeah. How you feeling, James?
Good, mate. Good to be back on here. I was worried that all my one-eyed wallabies analysis last week.
What actually? Yeah, we had a meeting last week, and I was like, "Nah, bring him back on. It's good banter."
Well, maybe I'll be a one and done, but I'm glad to get the call again.
No one and done's here. So just before we jump into the show, I want to talk a little bit to you, Woods, just so we can get an idea about your background, your playing background, your coaching background, and who you are as a rugby enthusiast. So you've had a pretty extensive playing background early in your career, playing first 15 for Wesley College. You won a secondary schools championship with them. You also played for Kelston Boys High School and also Auckland Under-19. So you've got a pretty extensive background, like I said. But around 2005, you jumped codes and you started playing rugby league. What was the decision for the code jump?
I just think I lost my love, my passion for the game, and I just needed a change. So my brother-in-law sort of took me down to his local league club, and then that's how it all the whole league pathway for me happened. So, but yeah, man, I still love rugby to this day. You know, a passionate supporter of rugby union, even though I work in the N.R.L game development space. But yeah, rugby still means a hell of a lot to me. You know, so growing up in New Zealand, it's every boy's dream playing All Blacks.
Yeah.
So yeah, mate. So yeah.
I think I was the only one who accepted the fact that I was never going to make the All Blacks and just went to the coaching standpoint because I had better development ideas.
Bro,
but,
you still have an All Blacks. You got an All Blacks blazer coaching the All Blacks, bro. You still
exactly. So I could still make that. But you also, like you said, you stuck with rugby league. You went and did some high development coaching, and you went in to become a development officer for the N.R.L. What is that experience like, helping build pathways for the next generation of superstars?
Mate, best job in the world. Like, I'm sure James can attest to it, having done what he's done in the development game space. But just helping those young kids, just sort of having a little bit of involvement in their development and their, help reaching their goals. It's been, really, really cool 3 years for me. So before that was sort of, I was a picking technician, so I used to pick orders for Coles. So back-breaking work. So definitely grateful for the position I'm in now. So yeah, mate. So yeah.
That's awesome to hear. Well, we're all glad you're here to join us on the show today. But without further ado, let's get stuck into the show. So I know it wasn't the best weekend for all of us here, but I want to stay on the happy side, and I want to talk about our favorite moments of the weekend. So, Hulla, we'll start with you first. What was your favorite moment of the weekend?
Bro, great weekend of rugby, if you ask me. It was great weekend of rugby. No, I got to see my sister, Iliseva Patapasanga. She lifted the trophy for Sydney Uni in the Premier Women's game down in New South Wales. It's their third year in a row. And what makes it even sweeter, they've never dropped a game in the last 3 years.
Really?
So they all 3 years they've gone through and they have crushed it. 3 years. So yeah, they've absolutely crushed it, and I was really happy I got to watch the game actually. So yeah, that was my happy moment. I got to have a quick chat to her. So shout out to Illy and the Sydney Uni team. I was watching, although to be fair, I was quite scared in the first half. I was like, whoa. Let's bring your heads in a little bit. You're looking a little cocky on the field. Let's get back to basics and let's win this game. So that was my happy moment, bro. I was super stoked. They thoroughly deserved that win, bro. They've had a hell of a season.
Okay, well, James, you obviously know New South Wales rugby and Sydney rugby pretty well. What was your favourite moment over the weekend?
My favourite moment, it was a little bit bittersweet, but I was able to watch live streams of the Shoot Shield semi-finals. The Randwick team, which was my club, went down to Gordon in a very close match at a kick after the bell. And then Sydney University, which was another one of my teams, went down by 2 points to Northern Suburbs. And there's a fair bit of negativity surrounding Australian rugby at the moment, but probably the most positive light coming out of that is the grassroots stuff. And that both of those matches were hugely supported, big crowds, big live streaming and TV audiences, and there's some really good stuff happening in Sydney Club Rugby.
Yeah, that's the one thing I really do like about Sydney Rugby is it's televised very well. I know there's been on a bunch of stuff on I believe it's like SBS and a few other random streaming services. But yes,
have you guys seen so you see all the Sydney games, the Shoot Shields all on is it Clutch? It's
Clutch,
live
yeah.
streamed
That's
on
how
Clutch. Yeah, that's the business, man.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, we need more of that. So, well, Woods, we'll end with you. What was your favourite moment about the weekend?
Aside from Union, my under 14 league team from Logan winning the grand final. And
hey, there you go.
Yeah, so the Brisbane grand final.
Yeah, boy.
But union-wise, I think Caleb Clark's performance for the All Blacks really stood out for me.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
he was incredible.
Very, and it was just really outstanding. So I think that's. I thought the Wallabies from last week, they played really well. So I was sort of expecting a tough game again, but that second half the All Blacks sort of ran away with it. But so I think the Wallabies are still looking good this year. So
I reckon that too. Well, me, I'm pretty lucky. I've got a few choices I can go to, but I'm going to save the major ones for this episode and give a shout out to my club back home, aka South Rugby Club. Massive congrats to Cameron Mapasua and the other second grade boys on heading to the prelim final. So if you're in Brisbane and you want to go watch some quality action, go head down to Ballymore in Brisbane, or you can tune in via the Queensland Premier Rugby page. But yeah, grassroots rugby is staying strong in Australia. But speaking about amazing rugby, let's segue into our rapid recap of week 6 of the Mitre 10 Cup. First up, we had Hawke's Bay beat the Northland Taniwha 33-17. Manawatu, they're having a rough one. They took another L to Bay of Plenty, 53-35. Shout out to our boy Matty Garland scoring a try for Bay of Plenty. He had a cracker of a game. Wellington won against North Harbour 25-20. That was a really good game. Auckland continued to produce some dominant performances with their win over Tasman 31-10. Naki beat Southland 17-19. Otago triumph over Counties. No surprise there, 40-22. And our match of the week, the mighty Waikato Mulu scored time to beat Canterbury.
Another one.
Oh, man, I want another one. So, but before we get stuck into analysing the game, big shout out to the Bonus Points very own Knovell Capote for FaceTiming me so I can watch the final minutes of the game and see the amazing victory.
You're welcome.
I was having trouble figuring out my days, and I thought the game was the following day, but it was actually the women that played the previous day. So Australia throwing me off with the time zones again. But there are a lot of elements to this game. You had two of the most well-established franchises in the Mitre 10 Cup go head-to-head. You've got the famous Nisbo commentating, one of my favourite commentators of all time. And you've got former All Blacks playing aside some of the greatest young talent I've seen in a long time. And that leads me into my first topic is I want to talk about a rising star in New Zealand rugby, and that's Josh Mackay. So this kid had an outstanding match, 73 carry meters, 13 carries involved in that, 7 defenders beaten, 2 line breaks, and even after a head-high tackle, this kid kept going. He doesn't want to go down. So, Hala, we'll go to you first. We've seen him play in Super Rugby Aotearoa, and we've commended him many times on his facets of play. What do you think about him on the weekend for Canterbury?
So I'm gonna this kid, right? I'm just looking up his stats now. He's only 93 kilos and he's 180, so he's just on 6 foot tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy is like I wouldn't say Mighty Mouse because he's not short, but that's a beautiful, like, just how he gets hit, gets back up, continues play. You know, it's like he's got an extra 10, 12 kilos on him of like just pure dominance. And the fact that he can move his body how he does across the paddock. And the kid's 23, bro.
Yeah, so he's still got plenty of
23.
time. Yeah, he's still got
He's
plenty of
23, man. His rugby IQ is through the roof. I mean, we've spoken about him previously, and I think the thing that for me, that's like that sort of the tipping point of a player, around that age is their rugby IQ, and also their heart. Do you know what I mean? There's not too many players that can consistently show up and show out, and that comes down to cool, knowing your rugby and knowing what to do, but it comes down to the disposition of yourself and the respect you have for yourself to get to the training paddock, to put yourself in these scenarios where it's now autonomous, and then having to play through that as well. And this kid's got all the attributes to be a future All Black, if not one of the greats. And and I mean that 100% wholeheartedly, because he's not, we don't look at athletes. We used to look at athletes and say, oh, he's a freak on the rugby pitch, or she's a freak on the rugby pitch. And this guy, you can just see is just determined and self-disciplined. And that's a great thing to see in a young player come through.
Definitely. And even though it was a close loss to Canterbury, the one thing you can see with their rugby system is it doesn't matter who the players are. Each player has that next man up mentality, and the gameplay continues to be impressive around the whole park. But James, I'll come to you with this. Do you think that Canterbury is great at recruiting great talents for the Canterbury system, or is it really the system itself that keeps churning out so many amazing players year after year?
Being at arm's distance as an Aussie, we obviously kind of respect what Canterbury do. They're the most successful provincial side in the history of rugby, and they just seem to turn out all kinds of kind of talent. I think if you look around the rest of the New Zealand Super Rugby competition, you probably see a lot of Canterbury juniors. Mm-hmm. And with any Woods can probably get in on this and discuss from a league perspective, but anytime you have a really good system, you've got a big base of the pyramid, you have a lot of players playing at a grassroots level, and that pushes the better athletes up the pyramid, and that creates real competition. And I'd imagine that the guys who miss out on these Canterbury NPC sides are pretty serious, ambitious rugby players. The players who make these Canterbury NPC sides are freak talents who beat out some very good players. And then the ones who eventually make their way up to Super Rugby, we're really now getting to kind of the pointy end of the kind of participation pyramid. And Canterbury, they do a lot better than other programs. They seem to have a big base of amazing talent. I assume that they've got a really good club competition underpinning the NPC side. And so just inevitably it's going to just churn out amazing talent.
Yeah, definitely. Woods, do you want to make any comments about that? Do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I've got a prime example of that. I played with, you might know him, his name's Kieran Reid. I played with a guy when I was younger.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. Is he a good player?
Sounds like a beat.
Yeah, he's a counties boy, and he wasn't the most talented player when he was young, but just worked hard, and then he sort of got that opportunity to go down to Canterbury, and then just everything just went from there for him. So, I mean, if that's any example of the Canterbury development system, he's probably a prime example of what they do with players and the sort of player they could create and develop and get to a higher level and next level. So great system. I'd say in terms of a league point, I think their culture is much like the Melbourne Storm.
That's a great example.
Foundation of their success. They everyone works hard for each other. There's no big egos. They just they're all in for each other. So I think
I better look this guy up. He sounds pretty good.
Kieran Reid got World Rugby Player of the Year at least once or twice, didn't he?
I think
he did. Yes.
Yeah. So Dan Carter did also, and Richie McCaw
and Bodie Barrett.
Yeah.
Wow, I wonder if there's a correlation or something, maybe.
Isn't Brodie Barrett out of Taranaki?
Yeah, he's out of Naki.
Yeah. But my point is that we've got three World Player of the Years out of the Crusaders system.
Yeah.
So it's out of a small corner of a small island, and you've got 3 guys who've been named the best player on the planet. So that's that probably speaks a little bit to what they're doing well.
Yeah, 100%, man.
I'm let's talk about
Blues fan.
So not from this year though. It's tragic in previous years. They did pretty well this year. But let's talk about the winners from this match, and the match ended up being just like the first Test match last weekend. I was on the edge of my seat. My heart was beating out of my chest. And what's even worse is Huller and I thought Waikato sealed the victory in the 77th minute, and the try was disallowed due to a controversial Liam Messam knock-on. I went and rewatched it. It was definitely a knock-on. He lost control of the ball.
I'll take your word for that. I'll take your word.
But in the end, it was Waikato that sealed the victory with a conversion kick by young replacement fly half Ratama. And so, Woods, I'll come back to you with this one. Is Waikato has a lot of experience in their squad with guys like Messam and the Jacobson brothers, who are obviously former, and some of them still can play for the All Blacks. But you've got a lot of young guys like Rowe and Ratama, like I said, who are holding their own in this league. Was it more the young guns or the old souls that are able to contribute more to these victories, or how viable the league is?
I think experience, you can't buy that in those big games. So I think Liam Meesam's still playing. Jeez, he's a same.
And he had a great game on the weekend. He came off the bench, but he's still killing it. Like he's the man.
Yeah. That year we won the secondary schools final. He was the number 8 for Rotorua. So that just shows, with 36 now, 37. But that experience, you just can't buy that. And I think having those older heads would really, helps those young ones come through and develop and be able to, weather the storm in those big games. So
definitely spoiled for choice in New Zealand, and I think in Australia as well. I think it's becoming more evident. They're getting some of their older players back, and they're able to help mentor, even if it's just in a coaching space. But definitely still on both sides of the Tasman. Really, really good to have that retention of the older players, but. In the end, the Mitre 10 Cup continues to produce the goods, and I can't wait to talk about weekend's round 7's action. But let's move into what we really want to talk about, and that was the second Bledisloe Cup match. So this was a hard-fought battle, and Australia came out of the gate swinging, just like they did in week 1. But in the end, the All Blacks got the W, 27-7, and I want to talk first about the biggest gap in the Wallabies game, and that was their defense. So the Wallabies had a whopping 40 missed tackles in the game, and both Aussie and New Zealand critics are holding a lot of weight in that number. And I'm not letting the Wallabies off the hook by a long shot, but there are a few dynamics we need to take into consideration, as well as you've got a lot of elements from the Wallabies game aside from the defensive woes. So the team was constructed a little differently compared to game 1. The Wallabies hadn't won in Eden Park in 35 years. So that provides a lot of pressure. And I believe Angus Gardner did a better job at controlling the gameplay. So with that in mind, James, I'll come to you first, because I know you're a massive Wallabies fan, but you're an even bigger straight shooter when it comes to breaking down the gameplay. And even though you have a bit of Wallabies bias in some arguments, which I can never disagree with, I've got All Blacks
fans.
I've got All Blacks bias as well.
I joke.
Was the Wallabies defense the reason they lost this game, or was it something else?
Mate, the defense was a huge issue. And all the critics have pointed towards the 40 missed tackles. I've heard that reported as many as 43 missed tackles. And people are saying that there's some softness, or there's certain people are trying to do impact tackles, or certain points of contact were too high. What I saw was in the first half, there was better tackle accuracy. The Aussies were going low. They were hitting and sticking. The All Blacks were getting their shoulders through and offloading a lot. And I bet you'll find that the tackle accuracy in the first half was much better, but we were still conceding line breaks because the All Blacks were offloading in contact.
They weren't doing that a lot in the first game. They were barely doing that.
No. In the first game, our line speed was such that the All Blacks were not getting dominant carries. We're catching them a lot of times behind the advantage line, and everything was kind of like flowing off our way on the back of good line speed and getting hits on. The All Blacks were getting a really good roll on this most recent weekend, They were getting in behind our line and offloading, which was causing us huge amounts of problems. And I reckon that Rennie in the sheds at halftime has said we need to have a focus on winning the contact and making impact tackles. Mm-hmm. And you'll watch that after halftime, guys are flying up out of the line and trying to put shots on. And the accuracy was poor. A lot of guys getting bounced off tackles. And every time we seemed to fly up out of the line and try to whack a guy, we were getting bounced and conceding a line break. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like that was probably a strategic adjustment that maybe didn't go so well.
Okay, fair enough. And I understand that although the defense let them down, you had some great offensive pieces that the Wallabies just couldn't capitalize on. So Huller and Woods, I think I'm going to turn you guys into an internal debate, or potentially you guys are just going to agree. We had guys like Hannigan and Tupou show that what they're capable of on attack in the forwards, but also Corabetti, he's scored 2 tries in 2 weeks. Who were you guys more impressed with on the offensive side for the Wallabies? Woods, I'll start with you first. Backs or forwards?
Yeah, I just loved Corabetti's impact. He brought he just finished his opportunities. When he got on their space, and I just think he's a real X factor for the Wallabies. So yeah, he really stood out for me. He can be anything. I just think they need to give him the ball more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he's one of the best wingers in the world. You just need to get him the ball more.
It's funny how the simple coaching points just end up like really sticking in your brain. You just like give him the ball more, and everyone's like, yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Harlow, what do you reckon? Forwards or backs?
You know what? I think it's pretty even. I think the problem, no matter which way they go, is the adaptation to support play is just never there, which is why Corabetti and Hannigan and Tupou can go do what they want, but without that support there, and it doesn't matter who it's from, the nearest guys, it's lacking, and that's where let's take Ned Hannigan for example. I thought he had a stellar game, but everyone's looking at his too many penalties, or he's lost the ball because he's tried to be the man. In running. But, I think ultimately, like James said, at some point, Dave Rennie's told them we need to win contact, and that applies to defense and offense. So, you're going to try and get that extra meter or two, which is what the forwards were doing. But unfortunately, if your forward pack aren't supporting you, that turnover, Artie Severe was on fire that weekend. So
great game.
But yeah, man, look, I thought it was down the line. I preferred seeing a real vicious forward pack. That's what I thought they needed, and I was really happy to see. And to be honest, the All Black forward pack, I mean, attack-wise, I think the Wallabies sort of had them in that sense in the go forward in points of the game, which was really cool to see.
Yeah.
Also, Corabetti does just need the ball, though. That guy's a freak, man.
So, mate, I'll play off of those points. I assume we're going to talk about Caleb Clark at some stage.
I don't know. I don't think he had a very good game.
We noticed like a heap of his line breaks and his carries were between the 15-metre lines. That is through the midfield. I can't remember the last time that Corabetti got the ball kind of impromptu through the middle of the field. He kind of picks and goes from ruck sometimes, but most of the time he's dependent on other people feeding him the ball. Yeah. Where I think Caleb Clark showed a really good feel for just popping up in the middle of the field and running off somebody's hip off the back of fast ball. And there's not much the defense can do when he does that.
Well, yeah, and I also think, though, that is the case because they're all, like I said, that support play that the All Blacks have, it doesn't matter what number's on the back. It's get the clean ball. So now Caleb Clark has that option. Okay, cool. Let me look. Jose Gear was really good at that as well. And you wouldn't say that he was one of the greatest wingers of all time for the All Blacks. But what he did is he understood that wherever that ball was going, especially in the midfield, they knew in that mark, it's quick ball, so you've got wingers that could come through and play. And that's why I'm saying my point was it's just like if Australia's support system could get that quick turnover, I think you'd see guys like Danguna or Corabetti come in a bit more. I think Corabetti also knows he's one of the fastest men in the world, so if he can just take that ball and scoot, he knows he's going to get 10 meters, and 10 meters is better than no meters.
Yeah.
But
I'm,
yeah,
I'm constantly seeing him pick from the base of the ruck, and he just goes sideways for a while until he can just outbeat his defender, and then he makes 10 meters this way because
it's Carlin Isles all
gassed.
over again, just in 15s.
I feel like it's done me half from rugby league, is Woods.
Yeah.
Well, that first 10 meters is everything at rugby league. So Capote, man, he's so explosive. So I think, they can really utilize him more. Like Caleb, so his work rate was really, really awesome. So I think that's his involvement, like you said, just coming in, standing outside the 10 and, off the ruck. I think, that we can implement, Rennie can implement that with Capote, using him that way.
Do you reckon it could come from the fact that the All Blacks have a forward pack that can play playmaker, or at least run the line where that second man play is from, a forward, as opposed to having to have your 10 or 12 or 15 in that play as well? Because I noticed that so much that it wasn't always a playmaker, traditional sense, giving that ball to Caleb. He's like, yep, give me the ball. Whereas comparatively to the Wallabies, which is what we saw, they always needed an O'Connor or a Tomoa, and when Tomoa was off, it was sort of like, what do we do?
Yeah, you definitely have elements of that. Like you see an Artie or a Sam Kane, they're able to throw cut passes like it's nothing because it's just built into their core skills. So, like you said, you don't really need a playmaker or someone like that to step up into that channel and distribute that ball. You just have everyone on the park who's able to really just get the ball out there. Okay, so I think the last question about the Wallabies is where should Dave Rennie go? So I think, James, I know you'd probably be thinking about this a lot over the weekend, analysing the game, just your thought process in general. It just comes natural to you. Where do you think he goes?
I assume you're talking about kind of backline selections?
I'm thinking about just everything. Where does he go to heading into the Tri-Nations?
Well, mate, I think he'd probably be happy. Like, it's frustrating as a coach. You're probably, in game one, the scrum and line out were a problem. You probably spend all week on that. The scrum and line out are fixed and a new problem pops up. It's kind of like whack-a-mole. So you probably spend this week working on like tackle accuracy, some breakdown work, and probably some handling under pressure. And you hope that the scrum and line out stay fixed and you fix the new problems and the new problem doesn't pop up. So, mate, I think our combinations aren't there. I saw I was frustrated by the game on Saturday, but I saw some things which were encouraging. I saw some new things which were encouraging. And, mate, I think it's just about kind of maybe keeping 12 of the 15, rolling over 3 underperforming guys, building a bigger base of guys who've played in his system, and just being patient.
Okay.
Who were those 3 players, you reckon, James?
Well, Tamura, unfortunately, is apparently out for the rest of the rugby championship. So you've got to find an inside back. Because I thought when Tamura went off, we've had this debate a week ago about how effective and how important he is. But when he went off, we lacked direction and we lacked match management, and that really hurt us. So you make the choice of Araya Simone or Lolosio, and I don't.
I was going to mention them.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Oh, sorry, James. I was just going to say, from a coaching point, do you run with Lolosio at 10 and then keep Baisami in at 12 and Pattaya at 13, or do you keep O'Connor? Like, and how was O'Connor's game to you once Tamura was off?
O'Connor's game was poor once Tamura was off.
Yep.
O'Connor always looks more comfortable with the second playmaker.
Yeah.
So if you assume that O'Connor holds his spot, maybe you shift him down to 12 and put Lolosio at 10. But Simone at 12 is a secondary playmaker, and
and he's a great player too.
I think he's about 5 years older than Lolosio, and he's probably a little bit more ready. And we're trying to win this game, so we've got one eye on the future. But you're also trying to win a Test match, and you're trying to win a Bledisloe Cup. So I think with that in mind, I'd probably pick Simone.
Wow! Yeah, cool.
This is good chat all over. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the All Blacks in our bonus point segment that is going to be run from Brisbane. So stay tuned. We'll join when we come back.
Book it down, son.
All right, welcome back. So I want to switch gears and I want to talk about the All Blacks. So Before I get into the All Blacks in the weekend, I want to talk about one of our most dominant All Blacks in history, and that was the late, great Jonah Lomu. So over the years, a lot of
Rest in
people
peace,
have
bro.
been
Favorite player.
compared to him, and
He's my uncle.
saying that actually.
No.
He's
Is
my
that like? Well, yeah, because it's like is that like when someone comes up and goes, "Oh yeah, my cousin Sonny Bill," and Sonny Bill's standing over there, and then you go, "Oh yeah, he's just over there," and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, no, they're distant relatives."
Hey man, all Tongans are related, G.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
great guy, Jonah. Yep.
But I think a lot of people over the years have been compared and said to be the next Jonah Lomu. So you've got guys like Julian Sevilla, Nemani Nadolo, and many more down the line. But no one could ever really fill the shoes that Jonah left. And the comparisons are happening again. And although it's been one test match, there are so many people dubbing this kid the next Jonah Lomu, and that's Caleb Clarke. So Caleb Clarke, this kid had an outstanding debut in the starting number 11 jersey, which Jonah used to play in. 12 tackle busts across 8 runs, 3 clean breaks, 138 running meters. And when you think about it, Caleb has had an almost identical story as Jonah. He's from Auckland. He made a name for himself in sevens, went on to Super Rugby and crushed it. And now his debut in the All Blacks jersey is nothing short of amazing. So, Hala, I'm going to come to you with this one. Is Caleb Clarke the closest comparison we have seen to Jonah, or has there been someone else closer?
Look, it's too early to tell. I'll tell you right now, though, he's the closest winger the All Blacks have had with the rugby IQ of Jonah Lomu. Going off what James said earlier, he goes looking for the work. And that comes from your sevens background. And that's always remaining active, making sure you can make those little meters as well as those big meters. So it's way too early to say, is he going to be the second coming of Jonah Lomu? I mean, Julian Sevilla, Nadolo, with all due respects, they just didn't. They had the size, but I did not have the rugby IQ equivalent to Jonah Lomu. And I think that what we're seeing, especially from Caleb's point of view, is I think his mum and dad did really well in that, you know, he's told how he didn't really know that his dad was a famous All Black and changed the game. And I think that no pressure and that calmness you can see on the field too, because he doesn't panic, doesn't feel pressure. So look, I don't want to say he's the second coming of Jonah Lomu, but I definitely will say out of all the big wingers that have filled the All Blacks jerseys, he's definitely the one with the closest rugby IQ on the field that we've seen. And not only just in one test match or 2 test matches, but during Super Rugby as well. He's shown he knows when to cut in. He can measure his man and beat him on the outside. He knows when to offload. And he just goes searching for work. And he doesn't search to no avail. He goes searching and makes that impact felt. And he's back on that wing the next play. So, yeah, look, I think he definitely has potential to be another famous 11. But how far that famous 11 goes, I'm sure we're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's too early to tell. And a lot of people, like I saw something on Facebook today that's saying they had a photo of Caleb Clarke and Will Jordan. And they're going, is this the next Lomu and Cullen? And I was sitting there going, Will Jordan hasn't even played a game yet. And you've got Clarke, who's played one game. And I can see the similarities, but yeah, I agree with you. It's too early. But and although you can't argue Clarke had an amazing match, a lot of critics are arguing that it wasn't so much Caleb's dominance. It was the Wallabies that opened the floodgates by kicking the ball to him so many times to give him so much opportunity to build momentum. So, James, do you think that the critics are right by saying that if the Wallabies hadn't given Clarke so many counterattack opportunities, that he wouldn't have been as dominant?
Mate, probably not. I think we saw in the Bledisloe one, what did he have, about 10 or 15 minutes off the bench?
Yeah.
And that kind of terrified Wallabies fans. And I think, like, Wallabies, I listened to some Australian rugby podcasts, and they're like, hopefully they just keep him on the bench. And
yeah, I saw that on in the rugby ruckus to be like, yeah, don't select him, just leave him out. Yeah.
So, mate, I saw this happening a week earlier, and as a Wallabies fan, that's pretty terrifying. He's one of those guys where the defense has to be aware of where he is on the field, and you've got to just suck in like 2 or 3 defenders. One's got to go low, one's got to wrap up the ball, the third guy's probably got to help. And then if he bends the line, the next defensive phase, you're in big trouble. So there's
definitely
similar with Lomu, like you'd bring him down, but you'd have to commit 3 or 4 defenders. And then what happens on the next phase, you're in a heap of trouble. So
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, definitely promising.
I love that face, James. I love that face.
Can I just add
Yeah.
for me, I hate the Jonah Lomu comparison. Like it's just like it's too much pressure.
I think it's like a
yeah.
Michael Jordan and an up and coming player. Like a lot of people come and go.
I thought you were going to go somewhere there, TJ.
No.
Don't you dare go there.
No way. No way.
Yeah. For Julian, that was a curse for Julian, I think.
I agree, man.
Like, you know,
100%.
I just think, and I don't think Caleb's the type of kid to take that sort of in much notice of that. I think he's just the type of kid that just goes out there and does his thing.
Yep.
So, but yeah, he could be anything. And I just think he's got an athletics background, so I just think he's so explosive in those little areas, like those small areas, you know.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you can see at point of contact, you can see him drop his weight down. That's 100% sprinting. He deliberately drops it, and not the Fijian arm fend. He drops his weight because he knows at that point he can go left or right, and he's beating that first man every time. That's just athletic autonomy. That's trained, bro. That's
so explosive.
Yeah, man.
And I think the ability to him stay grounded and not really get a big head about this. I think that's going to be a lot easier for him than other players, because he spoke about it in recent interviews in the last couple of days. He said that he's got friends like Danny Tusitala from the Auckland team that is able to give him a smack on the back of the head and go. He's a character, Ponce me boy, shout out, no easy boys, but he's able to get a slap on the head and go, come on, you're still just Caleb Clark to me.
He's definitely not going to drop a ball over the try line.
Wow.
Mate.
Okay. We'll table that, because I'm coming back to you with this. So but we'll go to you, Woods. So we talk constantly about how the All Blacks are spoiled for choice when it comes to selection time, and a great example of that is the hooker position. So although guys like Sam Cane and especially Artie, they had outstanding performances on the weekend, Dane Coles continues to be one of my favourite players with an amazing skill set and his grubby antics. Like, you just look at him and you go, he's one of the biggest grubs, and usually you reserve that for halfbacks, but you just look at him and you go, he's one of the biggest grubs I've ever seen in my life. And I love it because it riles so many people up. But Woods, if you were to select the next All Black side for 31st of October, are you picking Coles or are you picking Taylor?
Oh, I think either way, you're not going to lose much. I think they're both tough players. Dane, so probably the fastest hooker we've ever had in the history of All Blacks. Cody just brings so much, and I think he leads by example as well. So I just think, look, I think give Cody some game time. I think this week, and just because we don't know what's going to happen with the squad in terms of the whole COVID thing and coming back in quarantine. So I think, that rotation, I think we'll give Cody a run this week and give him some game time.
Well, it's my understanding they extended the squad, didn't they? And they're all staying over there for a couple months. Okay, So and you've still got Al Moore, who can have a crack against the Pumas if they deem that, because obviously the Pumas haven't had
your favourite player, eh?
Bring Ash Dixon over. Okay, no, okay. All right, let's leave that. I'm going to get too passionate about that. So let's finish off talking about the 13 jersey for the All Blacks, because Hulla clearly wants to talk about it. Hulla, we've been quite critical about ALB this year. Cough, especially you. But I think Ian Foster must have been listening to you last week on our show when you recommended Anton Leonard-Brown gets paired with Goodhue in the centres, because they had a great performance, and I think Fozzie is happy he went with your brilliant advice. So,
look, I gave him a call and I said, Uncle, look, let's have a chat.
Uncle Fozzie.
Uncle Fozzie. No, look, in all seriousness, I think the biggest qualms that I had with ALB at 13 is, and look, I'll quickly digress. The All Blacks had a good game. My problem with the All Blacks, and the biggest crack that I see is they're not cracking in attack. They're scoring points in off broken play, which is all well and good. And this is why they lost against England, because they had nothing to attack. So where I can say, the Wallabies couldn't adapt to the physicality or whatnot, the All Blacks still haven't beaten that back line by just purely outclassing them across the paddock. So this is why I was skeptical of ALB being in the team, and why I was preferring Rico just as that explosive player that can do something from nothing. But after what happened last week, ALB is the the trusty center. You put him at inside or outside, and he gets shit done. And we saw that from little things, from when he held up that try, to his one-on-one shots, to just making sure that Baisami and Pattaya, when Pattaya came on, were just uncomfortable. And there's that rugby IQ again. He was smart enough just to let Goodhue handle Tomoa, but understood as soon as Tomoa went off, you saw him shooting up from that outside in and shutting that down, which was just that's just rugby IQ at its best, knowing your position and knowing your opposition. Moving forward, I saw the squad that's coming over. I liked Umaga Jensen getting the run. I thought he did really, really well. But the problem is they don't have a number 12. Goodhue's a 13. ALB's a 13. The only dedicated 12 that they're bringing over is Laumape, and he's still 50-50.
Yeah,
so it'd be with what I just said, with the lack of dynamic attack and actually beating the Wallaby backline, offset pieces and whatnot. I'd really like to see them go to a traditional output of having maybe Bodie at 10, Laumape in at 12, just to sort of have that, and then maybe even pushing Geordie to fullback and just seeing what you could do with ALB at 13 or Goodhue at 13, just so you sort of got that direct runner at 12 to put pressure, especially now with Tomoa out. It's either James O'Connor, who, physically is great, but, if we can just run down that 12 line a bit more, it'll be interesting to see if that backline, the All Blacks backline, can actually get up over the Wallabies. And that's full credit to the Wallabies too, because I think their defense has actually gotten a lot better. But broken play, man, when you're down numbers, if you're down one guy against the All Blacks, they're going to score somewhere, or at least, make you hurt.
All right, we'll finish this off with the last word and who deserves that 13 jersey. I'll just go around the room. James, who do you reckon 13 jersey for the All Blacks?
Mate, I think I'm a big believer of making mistakes and learning from mistakes. So we panned Ione a week ago, but maybe he's learned from those mistakes, and that's what needs to happen. You need to be able to kind of build on that.
Yeah.
But to Hulla's point, I think if you've got Bowden Barrett at fullback and you've got Mwanga at 10, I think you've got enough playmaking, and you can maybe carry 2 13s in the centres. So I think balance is important. I agree that the All Blacks backline hasn't been clicking yet, and I think that'll probably just come. So you probably just need to roll out the same backline 2 or 3 games in a row. And those guys all played together, like the 9, 10, 12, 13, and Barrett in some combination have all played about 40 tests together. So, but I think you just kind of settle on a combination. Whichever combination you settle on is going to be freakishly talented, and I think they just get a little bit better each week.
Hey, James, what do you reckon of ALB at 12 and Ioane at 13?
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. Yep. Could that potentially be the back line? It's center pairing.
12, yeah.
I haven't watched it. Like, I'm a pretty big fan of Jack Goodhue.
Okay.
So I don't know, like Jack Goodhue is really just equally comfortable, I think, at 12 and 13. I think he looks really good at 13. So I don't know, like you can
split hairs about this all day.
Yeah. And either, like, you're going to make a decision between 2 world-class players and leave a 3rd world-class player on the bench.
Yep.
Woods, final thoughts?
I think it comes down to the game plan you want to play. Do you want that hard-running 12, to build that momentum for that second phase to open up opportunities for, the likes of Barrett, Rico on the back, get them on the back foot, and I got guys like Lamapi, they're perfect for that sort of game plan. So, I mean, if you're going for the distributor sort of 12, then I think you've leaned to Anton. Yeah. But I'm like James, I like Goodhue too at centre. I just think he's just tough, robust and just consistent. Hardly makes any errors. So
right.
I think, So I like Anton at 12, and I like Lamapi just for the momentum and the dents he puts in the defensive line. So I think definitely. Either way, just depends on game plan, I think.
Yeah. But you love Lamapi. You love Lamapi in the last 20 minutes, so you just bring him off the bench.
100%.
Super sub.
Super sub is definitely.
Like Lamapi to Caleb on one side, like that. You just like,
that's a freak problem.
James doesn't want that.
I wish on no one.
James doesn't want that.
Oh, man.
you're
Well,
a-
the All Blacks have one hand on the Bledisloe Cup, but they need another victory to get their both hands on it. So we'll finish off with predictions. Woods, we'll start with you first. Who's getting the W in 2 weeks and by how much?
Of course, I'm going to say the All Blacks, mate. Look, I'll go 2 tries, 2 converted tries. I think, by 14.
All right.
So,
Hulla?
I'm a little worried. I think Australia going to hit back pretty hard, and Dave Rennie's got 2 weeks to get his team together, bro. That's a very scary thought. Whoever wins is going to win by 1 try.
I don't want to do this, but I'm in the same. I've seen Dave Rennie do it with so many sides and come back from so much adversity and hurt that I think that he's going to bring it back. So I think it's going to be Wallabies by close, maybe by like 3. So I'm going to say that, but obviously going for the All Blacks. But James, round us out. Who do you reckon?
There's 2 more tests, aren't there?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we'll split these 2 in Australia, and I think we split those 2 in New Zealand because we won the first test. So I think we
should have won the first test.
Yeah, look, you deserve to, definitely.
From anyone that doesn't understand that joke, they did not win. We drew, but I think it was a moral victory. So,
This is the difference between Wallaby and All Blacks fans. A draw to a Wallabies fan is a win. A draw to an All Blacks fans is a loss.
Okay.
I think we'll split these 2 games in Australia. And we lose the World Cup. We lose the Bledisloe Cup. But I think we probably take a fair bit of confidence out of it, and I think we touch up Argentina, and I think we kind of. So, mate, just quickly, TJ, this wasn't on the agenda, but in about 3 weeks, I think they've got the World Cup. They've got the World Cup draw.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, and so the Wallabies have got this amazing knack for peaking in the weeks before the draw and sneaking into the top 4 in the world. And they've done this the last couple of World Cups. And when
they moved up to 6 now, right?
I think we're up to 5.
5.
And if we beat the All Blacks in one of these tests, I think we move up to 4. Ooh. And moving up to 4 in a World Cup draw means you don't play any of the top 4 in a World Cup in the pool series. And Australia's been really good at kind of going from 6th or 7th to 4th. The World Cup draw happens and we're in the top 4, and then dropping back to 6 or 7. So, mate, this is a break.
I really hope that they lose both games now.
Oh, wow. Oh,
mate,
man.
Keep an eye on that, and you heard it here first. We'll win one of these.
It's achievable. I think it's achievable.
We'll
100% the Wallaby side.
We'll sneak into the top 4, and we'll get a favourable draw for the next World Cup.
That's a great nugget. Good addition there. There we go. All right. Well, I don't know. I'm rooting against them, obviously, because I'm an All Blacks fan. But yeah, no, that would be definitely something to see. It would be great to see. But it's called the bonus point for a reason, and this bonus point segment is brought to you by the Rugby Nation. Go check out their 30-day Shed Fat Like the Pros program, and be on the lookout for a special discount code on our Facebook and Instagram. Hulla, you and Woods have got some stuff you want to talk about, so I'll pass the ball over to you to get us started.
Yeah, so I think it's been really great to see with sport back, both rugby league and rugby union. That we're seeing just the development of these young guys coming through. From a rugby union standpoint, Australia actually have got these young kids that have come through the last 3 years who have never faced a defeat to any international team, and that including South Africa and the All Blacks, from schoolboys all the way to 20s. We're seeing the likes of these young kids coming through, Jordan Pataya, Hunter Paisami, Lola Sio, to name a few, that have come through these ranks. And on the New Zealand front, we're seeing guys who Rico Ioane was one kid that came through, still quite young. Your Caleb Clarks that have come through, Umaga Jensen's, Will Jordan, who's now part of the extended squad. And so I wanted to, hit the heads with Woods and James just about the development differences between the N.R.L and the ARU. And if possible, what we're seeing comparatively in the New Zealand systems, and just how the pathways moving forward for young kids. Because, once we were all young ones, we all wanted to play for, the national team, whether that's the All Blacks, the Wallabies, or whoever. But now it's getting to the point now where these kids can be 17, 18, going straight to Europe and making, $70K to up to, onwards. 300, 400, 500K if they stick around long enough. Guys like Blair O'Connor from Brisbane, who played a couple of seasons with the Reds and then left at 20, has gone and played the last 12 years in France and made quite a good living. So just wanted to have a chat, and I'll start with Woods. Is as a development and pathways coach, how do you find the system, the N.R.L system, and how they can and how they develop their players to make it to the N.R.L and the crossover with players that actually come from union to league and from league to union?
Yeah. Well, I think look in the N.R.L, I think they start really early identifying talent. So they've been looking at you from sort of 11 years old.
Well,
to go into their sort of pathway squads at 12, 13. So it's really young that they look at players that they see with some, a little bit of promise in terms of the development pathway. So with the AIU, I'm not, too privy with it. James will probably be able to tell you how young they start. But from my son's experience, he started getting recognised with the Reds at 14, 15.
Yep.
So there's sort of that 3-year gap where league has jumped in on the cream of the crop.
Yep.
And sort of, you know what I mean? There's a lot of kids that play both codes as well. So, yeah.
And do you think it's better or worse to identify the talent earlier?
I think if you're trying to get the cream of the crop earlier.
Yep.
As a father, as a parent, I think it's you're pumping up kids' heads too early.
Yep.
From a young age. I think it should just be about fun and enjoyment at that age, 11, 12. You shouldn't be worrying about if you're going to make the N.R.L or Super Rugby. I think it just should be all about fun.
Yep.
So in terms of that, and I work for the game, and I'll say that as a parent, I think that it's a bit too young this time.
Bit too early?
I think 15, 16.
Can I piggyback on that? It's like a lot of pressure comes down on, say, a 13, 14-year-old kid, especially if an N.R.L contract is coming at them. I've heard of some pressure. It's not super common, but you get a lot of pressure from parents as well, especially with some areas where, you should take this deal because then you can help support the family and you can help pay for bills and do some sort of thing. And obviously we want you to go play further down the line, but it's a lot of pressure to put on a 13, 14-year-old kid to try and make that decision, because 9 times out of 10, that kid is going to fold like a house of cards and go, I need to help my family. So I definitely think identifying the talent is good, but signing them into a lucrative deal or something like that, where they lock them in for 4 or 5 years, a lot of pressure to put on a kid.
A lot of pressure. And I just think in terms of union sells themselves out in terms of not being so having state schools play rugby
it's not diverse
as well.
at all.
It's a real private school. That's what my experience in Australia. It's a real private school sport, rugby union, and I think it's sort of cancelling yourself out and sort of identifying talent in those areas as well. So I think if anything, the AIU need to get more into the state schools and start competitions and have their involvement,
James?
Mate, I agree with everything you've said. I think rugby league is so established in Australia outside of the private schools that Rugby Australia for the last 30 years has been trying to get into the state schools, but just hasn't really been doing a good job, obviously. About 15 years ago, I was a development officer, and one of my big jobs was to try to kind of infiltrate the state schools and kind of get some regular rugby happening. And rugby league just did it better, and AFL would swoop in and do it pretty well also. So I think, like, in terms of when you start talent IDing and like contracting guys, rugby league really does it. Maybe I think like a couple of years too early, but they give what they call like bottle and bag scholarships. So if you're a 14-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid, and you're kind of aspirational, and you're also looking for an ego rub at school, and you turn up with your Roosters bag and bottle, like at that age, mate, that's enough to get you playing rugby league instead of playing rugby union.
100%.
So rugby would call those like bottle and bag scholarships, and they're not actually kind of contracts. They're not binding. There's no money, but that's usually enough to kind of get the leagueies in that pathway, and we lose a lot of our top talent that way.
Ola, can I jump in here just really quick? It's,
man.
I think the idea of young players playing both codes is a great idea for not only their development, but also to keep their options open for potential contracts, obviously going into their adult career. But I want to talk about the difference of appeal specifically between league and union when it comes to the marketing and how they present it. So I think towards league compared to union and Aussie, when you think of a player standpoint, you obviously can't go past more money, more options as there are more teams in the comp. And you can debate on and about who has the better pathway program and the most beneficial for the player. But when you think about it from a fan perspective and growing up and seeing what you like to see, the NRL is marketed and presented so much better domestically than union. So one example I use just as a little nugget is the commentary on games. So when you look at the NRL, the commentary and production of the show is showcasing a lot of positive aspects of the game, regardless of what's happening. And I start paying attention, me as a fan, when the commentary starts in any league game because it's exciting, it's electric. When, like, for example, in an Origin game, when I hear their voices, it builds suspense. I get goosebumps. But when you go on the union side, from my perspective, you've got a bunch of old heads discussing inside jokes that aren't actually very funny, or crapping on players half the time because the standard isn't what it used to be, or moaning about something that shouldn't even be said. And I'm never going to say I know more than a former Wallaby, because 99% of the time I probably don't.
Except for Rod Cafer.
When I hear Phil Kearns commentary, Rod Cafer I'll take,
mate.
but when I hear Phil Kearns, I want to turn the TV off. So I think when you look at it from that perspective as well, is we could delve deeper into the development side, but from a marketing perspective and how they present the game, fans are going to be more inclined to go play rugby league when they see positivity and that kind of stuff than hearing constantly a former Wallaby going, "This guy sucks." It's terrible.
Yeah. I think the offset to that, though, is rugby league produce players that make bad life decisions that and not to poke fun, but they need to cover that, and they cover that by entertainment. So, I think Wendell Sailor is still the most notorious Wallaby of all time. And, it's like, well, you haven't done anything no one else did in the locker rooms, my G.
Yeah. if I can just add to what you're talking about, TJ, is that's the other thing. The NRL is just a massive machine, a massive beast, and in terms of revenue and so this is where, look, ARU does have a bit of money, but in terms of NRL, and that's the thing, when you're selling that to a teenage kid coming out of high school, there is more money in the NRL coming out of high school. There's contracts that they offer, and that can be, especially a Polynesian, it can be so appealing because that's what you want to do. You want to look after your family. But always, for me, I'm biased with union as well, because I think, like you said before, you can just gain so much from union that you can adapt into league or vice versa. So always saying playing both codes at a young age is just is so beneficial to you. And union is it's global, so you can go anywhere. And NRL is so cutthroat. There's a small percentage that will go on kick on to first grade, and the union you can go second division somewhere, France, Japan, and make good money and see the world. So I think, just in terms of that, the NRL is just a massive machine at the moment, and ARU's just got to do more in the grassroots and around the boots on ground. And like I've been to schools where I said, "Have the Reds been in there?" I haven't seen the Reds in years. Development officers. Yeah. So things like that, it's just dropping the ball there. So in terms of growth, and I want to see Australian rugby back where they're, real competitive against All Blacks. We grew up through the 2000s, early 2000s.
Well, we used to cry every second.
Johnny, it was like that, even though it hurt. But it was just a great era of Australian rugby with the Brumbies, and I'd love to see Aussie rugby back at that point. So, so that's coming from a hardcore All Blacks fan. So,
James, I'll switch over to you just in regards from your history in the development process of players. How do you find, especially I suppose now that you're in the collegiate program in the States, the pathway for, I suppose it was 15 years ago, you said earlier, from 15 years ago, what the pathway was in order to get kids interested into rugby to what you've seen the game develop from grassroots rugby in Australia, and, how you see rugby in the USA growing, and, the pros and cons of how each system's working.
Yeah, cool. So working backwards from the States actually have more registered rugby players than Australia by some margin.
Wow.
Unfortunately, most of those rugby players are starting when they walk onto a university campus at age 18. So, like there are some limitations. Like we all know the way that experience and repetitions and feel and playing games throughout your childhood are important to turning into a good player as an adult. And I think a lot of these players, certainly the ones I coach, some of them are getting in at age 18 with very little rugby behind them. We're turning them out at 23 as kind of experienced, skilled, knowledgeable rugby players who love the game. But they're kind of at 23 the way probably our schoolboys are when they graduate from high school in terms of repetitions, big matches,
Core skills,
match understanding, core skills.
Yep.
So there's like in the States, there's a fair bit going for us, but there's also a fair bit working against us because there isn't a huge setup in terms of youth rugby.
Yep.
In terms of Australia, I think like when I was around, I was employed as a development officer around country New South Wales, kind of back in the mid 2000s, and ended up taking some work up in the Northern Territory between about 2008 and 2012. And there was a stage where Rugby Australia was actually doing it quite well in terms of really maximising our resources. We were never as wealthy and well-resourced as Rugby League or AFL, but we had a certain number of development staff in each region. They were managed by a manager in each region, and that manager reported to kind of a state development person. And we'd kind of get into pretty much every school about once a year or every couple of years, and we tie that in with our local clubs, and we're doing some things quite well with minimal resources. Shortly after I left, Rugby Australia started going into some financial crisis, and it's still in that financial crisis. And the first thing they cut is development staff. So I think what we're seeing at the moment is like the lean times that Australian rugby is facing right now at the top end that's probably about an 8 or 10 year lead time from about when we started cutting costs on development staff. So I've always said that it's you got to build the base. You got to have some system in place to keep them in the system and identify the best talent. But if you don't have kind of boots on the ground, like you said, just getting a huge base of players loving the game, then the top end, which is the Wallabies, are probably going to struggle.
Yeah, right. So it'd be fair to say then, if USA Rugby, pull their heads in, we're not far. We're probably 10, 15 years away from seeing USA as a rugby powerhouse.
I think so. I think the MLR has got to be sustainable. If the MLR is sustainable, then that will increase the profile of collegiate rugby and programs like us. If we can start going to our university and saying we're producing this many professional rugby players, then that gives us a little bit of leverage on campus. And also make some of the maybe some chubby kid gets cut from the high school football team at 15, and we say football's not for you, but you'd be great at rugby. And rugby's great for making chubby kids feel good about themselves.
100%, G. Doesn't matter what position, you're all welcome.
So maybe at 15 he starts aspiring to be a MLR player and a USA Eagle, and he's got 3 years of rugby behind him and some good coaching by the time he gets to me as a freshman at college.
And I think with the funding that obviously USA Rugby have gone through a bankruptcy at the moment, and they're going through a lot of transitions, but if they put a lot into their grassroots as well, it's still so rare that you see a kid who will play rugby before they get to college, like James said. So if we pump a lot of money into high school programs or club programs and things like that, we're able to start building that base a lot earlier than rather just hoping that they come to college, they enjoy rugby, and then they go, okay, let's make a complete change of projection for what I was planning before I got to college, and now I can potentially play rugby. So there's too much, like you said, it needs to be sustainability, and we need to have grassroots to pair with that. So, yeah.
Nice. All right, I'll wrap this up quickly because this actually took a lot. Now that I think about it, this is a great bonus point that we could talk a whole episode on. But one thing I wanted to talk about is club and school culture within rugby league and rugby union. And by that, I mean, from my point of view, I feel as though rugby union in the private school sector, that I want to play for that first 15. You went to Wesley, I can tell you right now, at one point when I was like 11 and 12, Wesley, I wanted to go back to New Zealand. I wanted to go to Wesley because I wanted to play for Wesley, because you knew that if you wanted to play, if you be an All Black, you wanted to go play at Wesley first, right? Here at Nudgee, I got to go, blessed to go to Nudgee. Like, I wanted that Nudgee first 15. That essence of wanting to play for that jersey never equated to club. No matter what club I played for, Queensland, New South Wales, it didn't matter. So does that come down to the ARU and the NRL, or is that purely from an individual school and club predicament? Because I know down in Sydney, especially like the Shoot Shield, Randwick are known for their club. I don't know, what is it? Sports, like, just you want to play for Randwick, you're a Randwick man, so you die. The culture down there. So I don't know, is that something that, like James said, in the Northern Territory, you can actually combine the two, and if that has happened, I suppose the question is A, is it feasible, and B, if it is, should we look into it more to develop the games?
I think, just from what I've seen here, it's very similar to New Zealand, where you play club till you go to high school, and you play, that's your club, and then you sort of return after first 15.
Yep.
So I think the sale of the first 15 jersey and all it represents is still massive.
Yep.
But I think in terms of club, the club scene in Brisbane, what I've seen is not very strong.
Not strong.
And just. So that's sort of my experience with it. But
well, I mean, you can tell the difference. Shoot Shield on the weekend, or Shoot Shield in general. There's literally thousands upon thousands of people.
Yeah.
And then you go to a Brisbane, literally a big game in Brisbane is, a Brothers versus Uni or a Uni and South.
Yeah, unless it's a big match, you're not really going to get like the full Ballymore field, or you're not going to get that massive.
And that's what I mean. Like, in comparison, you can go to a first 15 game and there's literally 10,000 people there.
Yeah, it's insane.
What are your thoughts, James?
So, mate, you said that like Colts rugby at club never felt the same way.
Yep.
I coached Randwick Colts for a couple of years before I took this job here, and I'd have a lot of kids who had come out of all of the best private school rugby programs around Sydney.
Yep.
And like you said, they'd play in front of about 5,000 or 6,000 people most weeks. And they'd be much better resourced at the school. So like the school would have a staff of 3 or 4. You'd have a couple of dads who are managers. You'd have 3 physios. You'd have a videographer and an analyst. And mate, they'd train they'd change in a shed. They'd walk out of a shed to train and go back into a shed. And like all of the resourcing around high school rugby is artificially inflated because these private schools charge all the other kids money. So it's not only then you're also running around at lunchtime with your teammates at school.
True.
You're spending all day in class with them. There's a whole lot of advantages that high school rugby has that you really can't replicate easily at Colts at club level.
Yeah, that's actually a fair point. I never really thought about that. Do you think it's feasible to somehow get club rugby from that Colts era onwards to get to that point? Because look, it does exist, and and I think it exists more in the Shoot Shield than Premier Grade. But what problem is that? Is that ARU's grassroots level that they just need to start investing in, or is it individual clubs that need to start heading out to schools, doing those outreach programs, come down, whatever it is?
I think it's a balance of both. Personally, it's not going to be one or the other, because I think it's just lacking in both areas. Like I'll say, from a Brisbane State High perspective, is you'll play for that program, but you may know that there's a pathway program, but you don't really understand. You don't get that constant, I guess, feedback or really someone coming up to you and go, come here, come here, come here. They just expect you to go to that club. And so I think getting that pathway to actually have people come out and go, you're a great player, come play for this club, or come bring you into this program. It's going to make it a lot more, I guess, demanding and rewarding to go to that club, rather than you just finish high school and you go, I'll just go play for South again, or I'll just go play for that club.
Yeah, if I can add to that, well, that's sort of my experience playing first 15 in New Zealand, is that we'd get club coaches of the premier teams come out, do sessions with us, and just build those relationships, build those connections. And you're like, oh, that seems like a really strong club. I think I'll go there next year when I finish school playing. So I think like you said, building those relationships with the clubs at first 15 level, I think that can be really beneficial. So, I think, so.
That's why the All Blacks are the All Blacks.
But in saying that, I've heard Auckland club rugby's has sort of been dying a bit too. So that's
it's been on the downward trend.
Reason why they suck
so
the last 10
that's pretty
years.
sad to hear, because that was always our development strong point of of the union. So like it's a bit sad, because I think all these development teams, you come in now and they've sort of killed it off. You go straight into the Blues 20s or whatever. So it's a bit sad in a way. Club rugby's dying in a bit. So everywhere.
Thanks, lads. That was cool.
James, have you got any final nuggets to add?
Mate, just one more. Just thinking about kind of the way we resource our development officers at the moment. In the last probably 4 or 5 years, you've probably started hearing about the classic wallabies.
Yeah.
The classic wallabies were formed by wallabies who were basically disgusted by how little Rugby Australia was doing in the development area. And a bunch of former wallabies who are kind of my age or even a little bit older.
Only 21.
It's been tough years, mate. So it actually started by a guy, Steve Hoyles, who's a former wallaby.
Hey, Stevie.
And it was about 75% giving back to the schools, generating some interest. It was about 25% junkets and trips with their former teammates. So they travel around Australia and play classic wallabies matches. And this is basically an excuse for them to get away from their wives for a couple of days and
promote rugby.
That's the most important.
But anyway, I think you're going to have Adam Fryer on at some stage. DJ should probably ask him about the classic wallabies concept. And our club, Cal Poly, hosted Morgan Turanui for a week, and he's currently the general manager of the classic wallabies. So what they're doing is really just trying to generate some money and resources to take some of the development work off of Rugby Australia, because they're not. Awesome. They're struggling to kind of do that themselves. So I don't know if you can imagine the All Blacks. If you can imagine the All Blacks old boys putting together a group of former players, traveling through New Zealand, playing matches and doing school visits.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I want to watch them. I actually saw, because they just had a game not too long ago when I saw Radiki Samoa was down in New South Wales. Yeah, that was great. And the Fijian team, Serevi was down there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think Classic Wallabies played Classic Fiji.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's phenomenal. Okay.
More of that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, boys.
Classic Never Was's Wallabies versus
Classic Never Was's, mate. I'd take it. It'd be great rugby.
Put me on, coach.
Yeah, you'd have a lot of good players.
Prop to fullback. Same speed.
All right, boys. Nudgy All Stars. That'd be great.
I was actually disgusted. Nudgy did the Nudgy Old Boys did your Century first 15. Not one mention of my name. I was pissed, and I emailed them from different emails, putting my name in.
They probably just got sick of you and go, we can understand what this guy's doing. Let's
this
get him
guy,
out here.
he's a pest. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, great episode today. A lot of good info, a lot of good feedback. And thank you, Hulla, James, regular analysts. I'm loving everything you guys are contributing. And Woods,
awesome guys.
Thank you for joining us on that. On the 30th episode, you provided a lot of
the Woody.
Stuff.
We all got Woodies.
Thanks, boys. Thanks. I hope I didn't sound too dumb as a Union fan. I add a bit of value.
Of course.
So.
No, it was amazing. And James, just to carry on your point, we will be having Adam Fryer on our episode tomorrow for our Major League Rugby update episode. So super excited to talk to him about, because the Gill teams have been quite quiet about what they're doing in the community here and what they're doing for their Major League Rugby competition. So super excited to have him on. But guys, episode 30 done. Oh, I probably not. It's just, we'll leave it there. But episode 30, many more episodes to come. Thank you everyone for tuning into the podcast, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning into the Bonus Point podcast.